Hi everyone. So I think we'll begin now. So thanks for joining us today. So very good afternoon to everyone, and also thanks for joining us for Ask Me Anything roadshow sessions for Smartboard Challenge 2022. So my name is Jalene, and this is Shireen, and we'll be your moderators for today. So a quick introduction, in case you're not familiar with SPC, which is also short form for Smartboard Challenge. It's actually a flagship event of Pier 71, which stands for Port Innovation Ecosystem Reimagined at Block 71. And it's a program co-founded by MPA and NS Enterprise. So this year, we have 15 innovation opportunities, and it's supported by 22 maritime corporates and organizations. So for this Ask Me Anything sessions, we'll be sharing the answers to your questions from the corporates. So for this Ask Me Anything, the challenge statement is, how might we empower charterers and operators in their selection of vessels in order to reduce their risk and exposure resulting from underperformance? And this challenge statement is co-created by Klaveness and supported by corporate sponsor DNV. So before we dive into the answers, I think we would like to show you a short 2-minute video to quickly give you an overview of this challenge statement. Yep, so could we have the video on screen, please?
Charterers base their selection of vessels on factors that indicate their expected performance. Access to this information, however, is not readily available. When deciding which vessels to charter, we naturally want to ensure they perform as expected in terms of things like fuel consumption, speed, and engine efficiency. Unfortunately, we only get access to this information through noon reports after we have already committed to the charter and begun the voyage. Based on the descriptions provided during the chartering process, we would have certain expectations on how the vessels are supposed to perform. When they do underperform, we find ourselves exposed to risks that cause unnecessary disruptions, delays, and costs. Klaveness is looking for a solution that will provide charterers and operators with reliable vessel performance data so we can make more informed chartering decisions. This could be a platform that capitalizes on a network of charterers to share past data based on their past experiences and perhaps even include ratings on vessels.
Okay, I think we can head directly into the questions. So actually, my first question is a charterer or maybe Klaveness finds a vessel that's cost-effective and efficient, why don't they just stick to the same fleet of vessels?
Well, I guess in the free market, these vessels might actually be employed to other charterers, which we might require their service again. So these vessels might not be well positioned for the cargo that they have on hand. Yeah.
Okay, so actually I got another question for you since the answer was kind of short. Yeah. So second question is, are emissions output viewed with a financial value? Is there an arbitrary figure being placed on a vessel and then fixed numbers incorporated? And how is this value sort of calculated currently?
So regarding this on the emissions, at the moment, shipping is actually not required to offset its carbon emission. There is, however, a past instances where a customer has actually requested for carbon offset on cargo using the price of the EU emission trading systems, EU ETS, as a basis for the period of execution. However, as soon as there's any new changes to the regulation, definitely it will be priced in. I hope this answers.
Yeah, it does.
And okay, so one question is, could you actually elaborate more on how charterers are currently getting access to the data related to a vessel's performance? Like what kind of data are charterers usually able to obtain?
Okay, so as shared by Klaveness, currently charters are not able to get the full picture of a vessel's performance. They could usually maybe get half the photo, half the picture through assessing the speeds that the vessels published on AIS, which stands for Automatic Identification System. So on the other hand, consumption is something that is really useful in understanding a vessel's performance. So consumption actually refers to bunkers utilized to power the vessel. So for example, a vessel might be sailing at a decent speed, but if it's over-consuming bunkers to maintain that speed, it might not be as efficient. So having said that, consumption is a good indicator and also a crucial data set for full assessment, but it can only be accessed through a performance report after a voyage is done. However, it's only accessible between the ship owner and the charterers who are on that voyage itself. Okay, so Sharin, another question for you.
Sure.
So do charters usually have their own databases which store records, information and data on vessels or they are previously chartered?
So in fact, for charterers, most of them have various voyage management system, which by right should have some records of the vessel's actual speed and consumption. So these are also available in a vessel's post-voyage report that is done by a weathering routing company for the ship owner and the charterer. Yeah.
Okay, so another question for you actually. So how are charterers currently making decisions based on the information that is available and what's the process?
Basically, charterers actually have a lot of access to data of vessels that they previously have chartered through performance reports done by the weather routing companies. So if a vessel that has not actually been chartered before, have not been chartered before to the current prior to the current business, there is actually very limited ways to access this information. And also some of these charterers might not even be aware that they are losing large amount of money through such a method. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe how about some of the barriers that they have to overcome to obtain this information?
So I think pretty good question. So the biggest piece of missing information is that the bunker consumption of the vessel. So the more technical experts might even want to consider the RPM, which is revolutions per minute of the engines and the weather conditions. So for example, we have two vessels that might be sailing at the same speed, then but one of it might require actually more power, where the main engine actually needs to work extremely harder to achieve the same speed. So therefore, this actually means that the vessel is less efficient. So of course, having all this data around is also very important that the chartering personnel is not overloaded with all this information, because I think they often need to work under high pressure, and they also need like concise information to make a more like quick and decisive decision. Yeah.
Yep.
So these are things that you need to take note in a sense. So now, moving on, just some question for Jolina. So some questions that the solution provider who are listening should also take note is that, as the saying goes, data is actually the new oil in the digital era. So tell me, are the data that's required for effective evaluation of a vessel being tracked and made available to certain charterers? And also, would the solution providers be expected to measure or collect any form of data?
Okay, so data-savvy charterers and operators might already have begun the process of collecting the data of existing and ongoing voyages. So the limitation to this is the fact that the vessel first has to be employed at least once in order to access this, and the voyage might have already resulted in some unexpected losses. Furthermore, the currency of actual performance of a vessel is also crucial, as a vessel performance can change over time as a result of works being done upon dry docking or, for example, hull cleaning to remove marine growth. It will also be helpful if solution providers like yourself could measure, collect, and benchmark the data for the customer.
I see. So in fact, one more question. So are solution providers actually expected to provide hardware and software?
I guess it really depends. So up to this point, a lot of this discussion has actually circled around technical problems and solutions, but the industry could potentially consider a system less sophisticated, such as a collaborative rating system. So actually at this point, Klaveness doesn't really have a specific solution in mind. So it really depends whether solution provider such as yourself is able to provide hardware and software. Yeah.
So what are the potential industry-specific challenges that solution providers might actually face in the creation of the solution?
Okay, good question. So one of them might actually be the point of information sharing, and other challenges could include getting their hands on the necessary data. Okay, since you have been asking me a couple of questions, I think I'll throw a couple of questions your way as well. So the question is, what are other technological solutions that Klaveness has tried to solve this current issue in the industry, and what are some of the gaps of these solutions that our startups might want to take note of?
So at the moment, Klaveness actually have a solution that tracks vessel speeds. However, this only provides part of what's needed to assess the various performance of the vessels. So what is lacking right now is the data of vessel consumption for vessels that has not been charted before.
Okay, thanks for sharing. One more question for you. So how would success kind of look like, and how would that kind of be measured for the solution?
So for success-wise, what they imagine would be the chartering personnel actually is able to use the solution to evaluate vessels and reject vessels that might look good on paper, but actually but not perform otherwise as described. So it could also result in chartering personnel to incentivize ship owners to describe their vessels more accurately. Therefore, so success can be measured in terms of having a reduction in the quantum of speed claims as a result of using this solution. And so last question for Jalil is that, are there any other information or pointers that can be shared with the solver community to allow them to have a better understanding of the innovation opportunity and the solution that Klaveness is looking for?
Okay, so the solution developed, right, doesn't have to paint the perfect picture on the vessel performance. As long they are able to get maybe 70% to 80% of the necessary data points or level of confidence, the solution is likely to save Klaveness and other companies that charter vessels and operate third-party tonnage a lot of money. So as Shireen mentioned, that is actually the last question for today. So for the startups that are listening in, we really encourage you to put forth your proposals, and you could have the chance to work with corporates like Klaveness. So I think we could go to the next slide. Yeah, maybe we could give a while for the slide to come onto screen. Okay, anyway, the deadline for Smartboard Challenge is actually on the 8th of July. So it's actually closing really soon. So we encourage you to put forth your proposals. And if you have any queries, you can always email Pierce Anyone. It will be happy to share more with you. And if you'd like to find out on the other innovation opportunities in Smartboard Challenge, you can also scan the QR code on the left side of the screen. Yep. So we also have other roadshows happening this week as well as next week. So upcoming one tomorrow is actually with Jurong Port. This session with Jurong Port will be slightly different from today's Ask Me Anything session, because the corporates will actually be here to answer your questions, and you could also ask them your burning questions as well. Yeah. In addition to Jurong Port, we also have roadshow sessions with Wilhelmsen as well as OMC Shipping this Thursday and Friday. So please continue to follow us on our LinkedIn and social media pages to get the latest updates. Yeah. So actually for startups who are going through to the next stage, you'll be able to participate in our Accelerate program, where you'll get the chance to interact and also to network with these corporates and other industry players as well. So thank you everyone, and have a great afternoon.